I don't know. Is there a fit for? We'll save it for the podcast. Like, well,
get going here.
Cool.
All right, you're listening to Season 2, Episode 10 of Toast Dispatch Radio with Nick and Nick. Today's episode is brought to you by Play It Again Sports. Make Play It Again Sports your home to buy and sell both new and used sports equipment and fitness gear. You can follow them on Twitter at PlayItAgainIL to stay up to date on their latest deals and news. Today's guest is Franklin Steele. He's the assistant editor and the featured NHL writer for FanRag Sports Network. His Twitter bio says that if bylines were points, I'd be Wayne Gretzky. I like that one there. That's good. Franklin, how you doing?
It's true. It's good. It's good. I can't complain, man. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, we're happy to have you.
Hey, Nick, don't forget me. I'm the traveling correspondent.
We also have out on the road today, outside of his usual studio office home, is the other Nick. How are you doing, other Nick?
Doing okay. About hour and 30 minutes ETA from St. Louis. So heading home, coming back from the big job, making money for the family. Got to put bacon on the table. That's what I'm here for.
Doing it all. He's doing that.
Pepper to regular bacon.
Right, that's all I bring is the regular bacon. Not actually just the
It's an
bacon.
important distinction. Just the bacon.
Yeah, he said install. What he did was he went out to a farm and got some actual bacon, and he's literally bringing home the bacon. There's a pig in the back.
Slaughtered the pigs myself, kids. Here's some bacon.
Did you tell him that I'm Nick Senior, you're Nick Junior? Does he? I say him. I apologize. This is. Is it Franklin that's on the line with us?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so the name's Franklin. Sometimes people have Twitter account names, and you're not sure who's who, but it's Franklin, like the president, right?
Like the president, like the brand of hockey equipment, like the turtle, like all kinds of things. But yeah, you got it.
Okay. All right. Okay, and then I'm just driving right now, so I'll go back to sleep and let you guys talk for a while.
We'll phase in and out of the show tonight. So let's go ahead and get this kicked right off. But first, we wanted to talk about you a little bit, Franklin. So you're the how'd you get working with FanRag Sports, and I guess what's your background as far as hockey goes?
I got super lucky. I got into hockey, probably when I was 6. My dad was redoing his basement, or our basement in my old house, and the only thing that he could get was Cincinnati Cyclones games. I think it was an ECHL team or an IHL team at that point. And so I'd sit down there and listen to hockey, and we just both kind of fell in love with it. He wanted me to be a baseball player or a basketball player, and it turned out I was 5'6". Love football, and we just fell in love with the sport. I started writing about it probably 6 years ago, and I don't know, one thing kind of leads to another. You never know who's going to email you. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's been quite a journey. I love the game. I'm not really a sports guy. I'm trying to like baseball this year, but we'll see how that goes. But I love hockey.
There you go. Right.
Yeah.
Find something I like, you can write about it, and that's a good thing. So
Yeah.
you're telling me that you've been following the Blues lately, and you're from St. Louis originally, right?
I'm not from St. Louis originally. I lived in St. Louis for about a year and a half. With the different places that I've written for have kind of taken me from one place to the next. But I'm from the Midwest in general. I don't really claim to have a hometown anywhere. Honestly, I don't know where they would book me from if I was a UFC fighter. That's the only thing that's stopping me, is that I don't know where they would say I was from. But yeah, I spent about a year and a half in St. Louis. Best latte I've ever had, of all things, was in St. Louis. Yeah, I like it there. It's a cool place.
Okay, so you were telling you've been writing up, you've been watching the Blues lately because you were writing up about Allen and Carter Hutton. And so we want to get to talk about that real quick because Allen, he started off the year and he was definitely supposed to be the number one heading into the year, but he's looked shaky, sadly for the Blues, and he doesn't pass the eye test. And on top of that, the stats show that he's been pretty well below even average goaltending this season.
Yeah, it's interesting to me, and I think it's kind of a part of a bigger thing that's going on in the NHL in general. Is you get these young goalies, and you think they show these flashes, and they're kind of dealing with in Tampa Bay right now a little bit, kind of in Detroit with Mrazek. You think they're going to be your guy, so you give them this not huge deal, but a smaller deal than he would have got if he turned out to be this, dynamite number one goalie. So now all of a sudden you got Jake Allen. His new deal doesn't kick in until next year. You know what I mean? So they're at 4 years, at 4.35, and they got, Jake Allen who can't put, these starts together. I think it's really interesting. So I think Hitch said some pretty interesting stuff here over the last couple of days, essentially just saying, whoever wins is going to play. Like I think he said something like, tryout time's over, if you want to play, win hockey games, and I think that's going to be a really interesting dynamic, or would they really go into the playoffs with Carter Hutton as their number one if he's playing well and leave Jake Allen on the bench?
That's a scary because I couldn't see him doing that just so much that they've been just for these past 2-3 years they've been talking about Allen as being the next great Blues goalie and they're prepping him for that, and then to have him have a bad season, and for them to go with Carter Hutton instead, I wouldn't put it beyond Hitch. I mean, he's the guy that put Steve Ott in the first line of the playoffs that one year, so Hitch has done crazier things in the past, and it wouldn't be beyond him. But he's, like you said, he was quoted as saying he's got the tendency to play the hot hand.
Yeah.
As we like to call it, it's trademarked the hot hand term. And he says it all the time. It was that between Elliott and Halak. It was that between Elliott and Allen, and now it's the same between Allen and Hutton. Whoever's the hot hand is going to be playing if you're on Hitch's team.
And I think it's really interesting. Like Hutton's been getting. I actually wrote a pretty tough piece on Carter Hutton a little over a week ago, if I had to guess. And I really was kind of giving him the business because he was. I mean, I know Jake Allen hasn't been great, and I've been concerned about Jake Allen since the end of October. Like I kind of wrote about that when he was his record was outstanding at that point. He had only lost like 4, I don't remember exactly what it was, but he was looking good, and I caught a little bit of flack for it. And I was like, guys, there's some things to be concerned about here. And he's kind of I hate it when I'm right about players not being good. Like I'd rather be wrong. I don't wish a lack of success on anybody. But Allen hasn't been great, and Hutton, he had a couple really good games his last 2 outings, but his last 5 he's been a little bit better, but they're still towards the bottom of the league in save percentage at even strength, and whatever, a lot, like you said, it matches the eyes. The stats match the eyes, and I don't know what the solution is there. Somebody's got to get it together.
Did you have something you want to say, Nick?
Nick Jr. knows that if we're talking about goalies, I've got to have something to say. So, I'll throw in my 2 cents, kind of a broad perspective first would be that Carter Hutton, as far as, his ability, I see him right now as Elliott in his first year with the Blues. About 4 months under his belt, that's who he looks like to me. He looks like Elliott when he just started getting his legs, starting to get in his game. Carter Hutton's a relatively young goalie. He's maybe got 95 games under his belt now. I know it's under 100, whatever it is. And that's still, for goalies in the NHL, they need ice time, and they need to keep developing their game at the highest level. So I feel like Hutton's potential is still unknown. But Allen certainly has had his opportunities, and the biggest, red mark against him for me is his playoff appearance 2 years ago when he was given the full reins and said, "Here you go," threw him into the playoffs and he bombed. But then the flip side of Allen for me is that I think he's gonna keep playing better as he goes, and we just don't know what his full potential is. And I really want to see, regardless, I hope the Blues make the playoffs this year. And I think the ultimate story for Allen will be how we perform in the playoffs. If we make the playoffs, if we do, I guess we'll have a part in that. And then if he performs well in the playoffs, I think then everything's looking good for Allen in the long run. But, either way, I wish we never would have lost out Elliott. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, and you can say that Elliott's having a bad year in Calgary, but that's with a different defensive corp in front of him and a different system. Calgary's system lends itself to allowing a lot more chances because of the high-flying offense that they like to play with the smaller players like Goodrow and Monahan. And so it's I think if Elliott was still in the defensive system of the Blues, he'd be playing much like he did last year.
Hey, they've both been better than Henrik Lundqvist. They've got that going for them.
That is true, and that's a scary thought right there if you're a Rangers fan.
It's quite scary.
So another fun Hitchcock quote we had recently is that he's looking to get more production out of Tarasenko. Now, before I tell you what he did today to try to get more production out of Tarasenko, what would both of you say you would do first to get more production from Tarasenko?
Nick can go first. I've been talking a whole lot.
Okay, if you want to hop in there.
Oh, hey, Nick, did you just ask me a question?
Yeah, we were just saying Hitchcock said he wanted to get more production out of Tarasenko. Now, before I tell you what Hitchcock did to try to do that himself, what would you do to get more production out of Tarasenko? Like, would you change up his line mates or?
It's just funny to hear you ask me these questions because, well, anyway, so you already know the answers. But I guess the bottom line is that I was trying to think of the Hitch quote. I was listening to the pregame show, and he said something that caught my attention. I can't think of how he said it now, but the bottom line is we both know, and I think a lot of people know, that we certainly would like to see him. I'd like to see him one time, for a week, maybe 4 or 5 games in a row. I'd like to see the best players possible on the team just filling up his line,
Mhm.
and then see what it produces. And who that is, you could probably say better as to who that could be, but we know it's not Laterra. And I don't know, I'd just love to see him with the best guys he could have at the best center, which for us isn't that great anyway, but the best left wing.
I'd love to see a Fabry, Stasny, and Tarasenko first, is what I'd like personally, just because of the speed and the playmaking ability that gives all the players.
Hitches talked a bit about how he wants to get him, with more physical line mates. He wants him because he's getting checked to death. I think is literally what he said. He's getting checked into the ice, and well, yeah, because you've got him on a line with, with like you guys kind of alluded to with Lethra and whoever else, like Nail Yakupov. Like, no duh, they're going to check Vladimir Tarasenko into the ice. They're out there. He's out there with 2 orange cones, and I mean that. I like Nail. I do, with all due respect. But, man, I like that idea a lot. Stick him with Robbie Fabry, who he obviously has tremendous chemistry with. Pick your center and just make it so if they are going to check Tarasenko, if they're going to play him tight, there's somebody else there who can make them pay for that. Or even Jaden. I'm sorry, I meant Jaden Schwartz. He looked great with Jaden Schwartz, not Robbie Fabry. I get those guys confused sometimes. I apologize. But the point is the same. Get him out there with somebody, another wing who can finish, and I think you see more production from Tarasenko.
I think what they're doing right now is Hitchcock, what he actually did is he put Tarasenko with Laterra, of course, as his center, and Yashkin as his left winger. And now what that's going to do, I think, is going to, and if I'm wrong, I'll gladly be wrong about this, but I think it's going to compound the problem. Because what you're doing is you're saying, hey, even more so now, you don't have to worry about anybody else in this line because these other guys aren't scorers. If you have your whole team cover Tarasenko, those other 2 guys aren't going to put the puck in the net. Just cover Tarasenko.
Yeah,
He's getting checked even more now.
Let me throw this out, too, on that front. I think, we know if Yaskin's out there, one of the weakest things that his weakest element to his game is he is horrible at getting the puck out of the corner.
Mm-hmm.
If him and another guy go in the corner for the puck, he is not coming out 90% of the time with that. He does not have that puck when the play is done. It's gone. And so what I like is I like Yakupov with Tarasenko for one main reason on the offensive zone, on the offensive side of it. I don't know about how they play together as far as back checking and everything. I guess you don't really look at that part of the game as much or see it as much. But on the offensive zone, what I like about Yakupov is he'll create space and he draws players to him. And that's the perfect scenario for Tarasenko because he can also, Yakupov can pass well in small spaces. So if you get Yakupov with that puck, he'll create space, and then his guys try to pull in on him, or feel like, hey, he can make a play, we got to get him. Then he can just, it'll create space for Tarasenko, and I think that's a major plus.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you take Fabry and or even Fabry used to play center, put Fabry back at center, and let Yakupov be the left winger on that line. and then you got 3 scoring threats. Now a team can't put all their eggs in one basket and say, okay, we're just going to check Tarasenko, because there's other 2 guys in the ice that can make us pay now. And so if you got 3 scoring threats, I think that's going to open up more ice than putting Tarasenko with 2 checkers to open up space.
And I just don't. I understand why Hitch would want to have different scoring lines and want to put different scoring threats on different lines. But if they're not scoring, then they're not scoring lines. They're not threatening anything. So I understand, I guess, to some degree, the logic of splitting up Schwartz and Tarasenko. But man, those guys are a hurricane out on the ice. They blow through people, and they, they're great on, not great, but they do what they need to do in all 3 zones. They tend to have the puck way more than they don't have it, even with a guy like Lethra out there. I just don't see the downside of putting those 2 wings together, especially when you have guys like Perron, or Fabry, or Steen that can fill in on the second and third lines. Like I just don't understand why you don't put those 2 threats together.
Hey Nick, can you give us an in-game update?
In-game update.
What's going on with the Blues?
I do not have that tab up. I am slacking. Let me pull that up right now. Capitals that Blues are playing right now. Actually, as we're recording this episode, it is 0-0. 16:50 left in the first period, it looks like. Blues are out shooting the Capitals, 2 shots to nothing.
And what
so
are we?
So good.
Minutes left in the first?
16 minutes left in the first period. Yeah, they just dropped the puck a little bit
ago. Okay. All right.
Moving on, the next thing we had was the chat. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at our tweet of the week, actually, real quick. And so this week comes from @InfiniteRaiders, and he posted a video on Twitter that he took at the LA Clippers and Lakers game. It was during a stoppage in play. They showed a Chargers tight end on the Jumbotron, and he was immediately and relentlessly booed by the fans. So the Chargers haven't even played a game yet in LA. They haven't even picked up their bags and dropped them in the LA hotels, and he's already sick of them.
That's tough. That poor guy, he had nothing to do with it. They didn't ask him.
Exactly.
He didn't get a vote. Would you mind to circle back just real quick, because I think it's interesting to think about here because of who the Blues are playing tonight. They got Alex Ovechkin in the Washington Capitals, right? And I think, as a goal scorer, because that's what Tarasenko is primarily, right? He scores you goals. He finds the back of the net. You see the same thing happen to a lot of these pure goal scorers where they have to start adjusting. I think Tarasenko is really just now, he's obviously been awesome the last 2 years, but it's getting to the point now where teams know how to play him, right? So I think it's going to be almost to some degree on him to start finding different ways to score goals. I think, he hasn't scored in the last 5 games, but he's still on pace for 82 points. Like, it's not like he's totally sucking it up. You know what I mean? So I think it's kind of an interesting dynamic, especially with tonight's game, where you look at a guy like Ovechkin who's evolved over the years. What does Tarasenko have in his back pocket that he can try? Where can he start to score from that he hasn't necessarily tried before? So he's still young. He's not 32. He's still got time.
He's got lots of time. And then when you look at Ovechkin, too, the funny thing is, everybody knows where Ovechkin's going to be. He's going to be right outside that circle, and he's going to be taking those timers all night. But nobody can stop him. So what he needs to do next World Cup, next Olympics, he needs to get out there with Ovechkin on Team Russia and figure out what that secret is.
Yeah. Can I have some of that? Can I have some of that juice, sir? Can I have whatever you're drinking before the game? Can I have a couple bottles? Yeah, I mean, he's on pace for, I think I was looking at it this morning, like 4 less goals than he scored last year. And that's with, earlier in the season, he had a 7-game stretch where he didn't score. And now he's, I think he's at, 5 games now. So I saw an interesting tweet from, I don't remember which stat site, I think it was TSN, where they showed the players who had the most 3-point games. And he's 4th in the league. He has 5 3+ point games already. So a lot of his points are coming in bunches. Maybe it's time to kind of adjust the way, like maybe he's never going to be a goal every other game guy. Maybe he is that punches and bunches kind of scorer, and I guess that's better than not having a guy that can score at all. But I think it's interesting. I think he's going to score a goal here in the next game or two, and he's going to score like 8 more in 12 games and then go cold for 4. You know what I mean?
That can happen too. And when you look at, going back even farther to talk about the line mates, when you look at a team like the Capitals, that's a team that really does. They took the 3 best players and they put them all on one line. They took Backstrom, great, I think one of the more underrated centers in the league, Then they took Oshie and they took Ovechkin. They put them all on one line and said, all right, you guys are a scoring line. You're going to score. It's up to you to find ways to score, and we're going to rely on you. And it's worked pretty well for them for their regular season success they've had over these past couple of years.
I think it's a fair comparison. I mean, again, there's the argument that, we want to be tough to stop. And if the Blues are scoring 4 goals a game and everybody's going, and honestly, if they were scoring that many goals a game, nobody would probably notice that Tarasenko isn't scoring as much as they'd like him to be. If they were winning consistently and they were doing things consistently, if they're at the top of the division, I don't really know if it'd be a story, but I don't know if it'd be this, cover of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, sports section and that kind of thing. Like, I don't know if it's as important or as big, and that comes with the territory. He's got a huge contract, and I'm not saying that the criticism isn't valid. It's just kind of a symptom of a larger issue.
I think our biggest complaint about Hitchcock over the Hitchcock era in St. Louis has been the lack of consistency with line mates. You'll get players lines, and I'm sure that's something every fan base complains about, and every fan thinks, oh yeah, well, my coach is the worst at keeping lines together. But Hitchcock really does mix up the lines a lot. He'll mix them up during the game, before the game, during warm-ups. He'll announce that there's lineup changes. It's players, I think they need consistency, and I think that when you look at a team, most of the teams that are competing at a high level, they've got a top line that they keep together. There's 3 players that, through thick and thin for the most part, unless they're really screwing it up, they're going to be together out there every night, and the Blues don't really have that.
I don't understand the idea of the. I understand that sometimes you got to punish guys by demoting them to the 4th line for a period or whatever. Like, I don't get the point of sticking your best player with your, with somebody that can't hang with him on a talent level that he's going to have to drag around the ice. How is that going to help Tarasenko get out of a funk by sticking him with somebody that he's going to have to try and set up and that he's going to have to try and feed? And how he's gonna be the focal point of the line. Like, you gotta have help out there. You can't beat 5 guys by yourself, and that's just not a realistic expectation for Tarasenko.
I got a theory. As to possibly why Hitch does what he does with Tarasenko. Let me ask a quick question. Okay. So Tarasenko has how many goals right now? 20?
It's right around there.
Yeah.
Pretty close, right? And it's what, top 3 in the league?
Top 5 or 10. He's dropped a little bit from that.
Yeah, I think he's top 10. I think he's like 8 or something.
Yeah, he's definitely top 10. He's at 20 goals even right now.
Yeah, so there's an outside chance that, the coaching staff is saying, what's the problem? They might be saying to themselves, he's got 20 goals. I mean, hey, I don't think there's a problem here. But the only downside to that is are they realizing the full potential of Tarasenko right now if he had better players? And where would we, because then I guess they have to ask themselves, if better players get put on that line, will he produce enough to offset what's lost on the other lines? I mean, those are the real questions. But the thing, again, I guess it comes back, no matter how you shape this discussion, is you wonder, why don't they try it? Mm-hmm. Just try it. Just try them with the best guys.
And I wrote an article about this on the Toast Dispatch a little while back. I like the title of this one, Franklin. It was what was it called? It was Doug Armstrong, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love Bad Trades. I had a line in there that's talking about Laterra and how they weren't really realizing the full potential of Tarasenko by putting him with Laterra. And so it's like, think about Brett Hull and Adam Oates. If Brett Hull had Kelly Chase as his center, do you think he's the Hall of Fame player that he is today? I mean,
probably not.
Yeah, with Kelly Chase, that's an exaggeration, of course, but with Laterra, I don't think Tarasenko is as good as he can be. If you swap him out with someone like Matt Duchene or even Paul Stastny,
Matt Duchene and Tarasenko stop the presses. That's a highlight reel line right there. I don't know what's going to happen in the defensive zone, but whew, those guys can skate.
That would be fun.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
John Tavares is like the ultimate dream, but that's even less realistic. But trade block, though.
Yeah. Take Stastny and a bag of pucks, please.
Now, speaking of trade rumors, we talked about Kevin Shattenkirk a little bit. So as we're coming up to the All-Star break, the Blues have got a good idea of what they are as a team right now and what holes they need to fill. And one of those holes, like we've just been talking about, is the number one center for Tarasenko. And now, like you just said earlier, actually, before the show, Darren Dreger, I think it was, NHL Insider, released a list of teams that Shattenkirk was willing to negotiate with. And on that list of them was the Avalanche, surprisingly enough. So he's willing to get traded there and negotiate a extension. And the Avalanche have come out and said that everyone on the roster except McKinnon is available for trade. So that gives some interesting possibilities for trades.
It really just comes down to, I think, the dollars and cents, because they don't want. If I'm Shattenkirk, I am going to free agency and I'm going to make $8.5 million. I don't know why he would. If he's interested in playing for a contender, Blues are fine. They're not, and I think it kind of is lost in the shuffle a little bit this year. This is a team that's kind of rebuilding on the fly. They lost David Backes, they lost Troy Brouwer. This is a different team up front than they were a year or two ago. If you want to win a cup, if that's your deal, why would you say, yeah, trade me to the Avalanche? So I don't know, how much he's willing to negotiate, or if he would. And I'm guessing here. I've never, I don't have Kevin on my speed dial. Like, hey, how you feeling today about free agency, Shatty? But if I'm him, there's a lot of money there, a lot of money. So, if you have your choice to play for the Avalanche for the next 8 years or go get paid, what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
And that affects his trade value.
If they can't negotiate an extension with someone and trade him, I think the Blues will either hang on to him for their playoff run, or they will end up trading him for much less than he's worth and just get a couple of prospects or draft picks in return for it, and not high valued ones at that.
Do you want to see them hang on to him? Do you think that's the way to go? Would you want to keep that player and try and make a run of it? Like, say they do kind of put it together here like they could. Let's say Allen finds his game, Tarasenko finds the back of the net, and all of a sudden that's the second or first best team in the Central, and they have as good a shot as anybody. Do you, as a fan, I'm so sorry. Do you want to see them keep that defenseman, or do you want to see him moved?
I'll tell you, I'm really torn on that, because, I am a fan of Shattenkirk's. I like him. I've got that I'm wearing right now under the Blues jersey, actually. So I am a Shattenkirk fan. But at the same time,
I got Shattenkirk underwear on.
Oh, well, you got me beat. Yeah, I didn't even know.
I'm not even going to Google that. I would. I was like, I should Google that, but no, I'm not going to.
Hey, I'll throw this in on the Shattenkirk, is that I love him on the power play.
Mm-hmm.
He at times quarterbacks the power play. He's dynamic on the power play, and he makes the right plays and passes, and he's, I think, an integral part of the power play for the Blues, which in a playoff scenario is very important, obviously, power plays. So in some ways, I almost don't want to see him go either, because I don't know that the upside, whatever we gain, I'm afraid it'll be lost,
mm-hmm.
On the defensive side in the power play.
And what I'm thinking is that we could get away with trading Shattenkirk, because the defensive core is so deep for the Blues. You've got the emergence of Colton Parayko as essentially a second Shattenkirk up there on the blue line, a little bit more defensively minded, but still a puck-moving defenseman that can take an incredible shot. And then in the AHL, you've got Dunn and Vanelli, two highly touted defensive prospects for the Blues that are just about ready to come up. And a lot of people are thinking Dunn could be up next year, and Vanelli could be knocking on the door the year after. So you've got defensive cores that are already on the NHL roster strong, and you've got a strong defensive core in your minor league affiliate team that are ready to come up. And so
don't forget about Hunt. We got Hunt too.
No, he was picked up on waivers by the Nashville Predators.
I know. Kill Armstrong.
Yeah, sure. Let that remark be stricken from the record. If Armstrong mysteriously dies, it wasn't us. So
yeah,
on top
really.
of that, though,
if he died tonight, it might have been me.
Well,
I'm driving home. I'm probably going.
Where were you on the night of the 19th? Driving home. Yeah, likely story.
Yeah, really. I was driving home
from Armstrong's house. Yeah, whatever. But if they could get a center back for Shattenkirk, a number one center somehow that Shattenkirk agreed to extension, and they got back someone like Matt Duchene, or somehow they packaged another player and a prospect and get John Tavares somehow, I would make that trade in a heartbeat. But if all they're going to get is draft picks and prospects, I would say hang on to Shattenkirk for the playoff run.
Hey Franklin, have you ever seen the Toast Dispatch Twitter account? Do you follow us? I'm putting you on the spot. Did we lose him?
His mic might have cut out on us.
Oh, his mic cut out?
I think his mic cut out. He's playing around right now. There we go. We can hear you now. Or no?
Are you there,
no,
Franklin?
He's still out. It was on for a second, but it's back off.
All right, well, let's talk maritime.
What about now? Can you hear me now?
Okay, we got you now.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, you heard my sweet excuse for why I wasn't following you guys. So I'm not going to repeat it. I'm just going to let it go. That's.
Hear it again.
Oh, we didn't
I
hear
don't
it.
understand. Can you not hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah,
I hear you now.
You cut out a little while back.
That's weird. I'm really sorry about that to you and your and to your listeners. My janky little microphone. But I really trying to stay off of the Twitter. Every time I log on to Twitter, I'm like, oh, this is why I don't get on Twitter.
I know what you're saying.
I think as a writer, that's a good idea because I do think Twitter kind of stifles the creativity. I don't know if that's part of why you do it or if it's just because of the angst you have when you get on Twitter. I'm not sure which one it was, but you ever run into issues? I didn't get to hear earlier everything you do. So do you write every day? An article once a day?
Mostly, yeah, for the most part. I took the last 2 days off just because I know it's going to be, we're at the halfway point of the season, and it's going to be go time between now and mid-July for the most part.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff going on, but yeah, I'm usually good for 5 or 6 posts a week and 5 or 6 tweets. So
yeah, but 5 or 6 articles a week, that's a lot. So yeah, I guess. But do you find that if you get on Twitter, does it affect your creativity at all as far as being able to write, or maybe not? I don't know.
it depends. I don't. Sometimes I'll go to Twitter to see what a consensus is. Like if there's a player that I've only started to watch recently or a team that I haven't watched a whole lot of, I'll watch the games and whatever. And I'm like, oh, I wonder what people are saying about, not fans, but I just mean like what are the local beat guys saying about player X or player Y? What are the overall impressions?
See, that's why you've got to follow the Toast Dispatch because you'll see articles like I did a parody of world news, like those old. The ones you see at the tabloids, and it's Doug Armstrong is the devil, and it had a picture of him, devil, and that boy was behind him. And anyway,
are you not a Doug Armstrong fan?
If you stay informed,
I'm getting that.
He's not a big Doug Armstrong fan.
You don't have an Armstrong jersey, an Armstrong sweater?
He's got a Halak jersey hanging up down in the basement. Actually, it's
nice.
Tell Franklin the joke we pulled on Armstrong because we meet a lot of the players. I mean, I've met a lot of the alumni. I get to hang out with them sometimes and whatever. And so tell him the joke I played on Armstrong.
Okay, so we were going up in the elevator at the Scott Trade Center, and he walk into the elevators. Who else but Doug Armstrong? And so of course he looks at them. And he goes, "Don't I know you from somewhere?" And Armstrong's kind of, yeah, probably. And I forget who he called him, but it was like some old player or something. He's like
no, and I kept saying
like, Bobby
some
Plager.
guy behind me goes, "It's Doug Armstrong, you dummy." Right? And I go, no, it's not Doug. Don't tell me. No, it's on the tongue. And the elevator opens up, and I'm like, I forget who I said now. Rob Ramage.
Some random name. Yeah, Rob Ramage.
He goes out the elevator. Don't tell
That's really funny.
Doug, I know who he is. Don't. And the guy says, it cracked me up though. It was like right on cue. It was like I couldn't ask the guy to do it any better. He just kind of whispers. He's like, "Is that Doug Armstrong?"
Oh, it was right around during the all the Druin rumors too, where everybody's like, "Oh, we're going to trade for Druin, and we're going to get Druin from Tampa Bay. We don't like him anymore." And so someone had just asked him as he walked in, "Hey, Doug, so are we getting Druin or what?" And he goes, "We're trying." And then he falls like, "Oh, you look familiar."
Oh, the price tag would have been ridiculous. Now, Druin and Tarasenko, that's a line that I would watch. I think Druin is essentially what they thought Yakupov was going to be, but in center form. I think Druin's a really fun player. Sorry, I'm kind of
great guy.
I'm good for a couple tangents tonight. Don't mind me.
man, we like Drew in here too. We were really hoping they'd pull the trigger on that, but I heard the asking price was Robbie Fabry, and I don't know if I'd be comfortable making that trade because of how big Art Fabry is at the left wing depth.
Hey, Nick, before we go too much farther into the show, I think we don't want to forget about our wonderful sponsor, okay? So I wanted to ask you a couple quick questions. Do you like to play, Nicky?
I do.
You like to play do you like to play sports?
Not at the boats, but I like to play sports, yeah.
So you like to play sports then, right?
I do.
So where else would you go? What you play sports more than once?
Sometimes
you play
I
it
play
again?
it again. I do play it again.
Again and again?
Again, yeah.
All right. So where else would you go to get your sports equipment? Your pre-owned sports equipment?
You wouldn't be suggesting play it against sports, would you?
Play it against sports. That's where you need to go. I'm telling you, they got all the great stuff there because it's not just. And I wanted to ask you too. There's new stuff there, right? It's not just pre-owned. There's new stuff there too, right?
There's new stuff. There's used stuff you can buy and sell. And seriously, folks,
but it's not used. It's pre-owned. And why is it pre-owned? What happened? Because people disowned it, right?
People disowned it. There we
go. People
go.
disowned the equipment, and then you go there and you pick it up.
And you own it.
They disowned it.
So
okay.
Yeah, I mean, big thanks to Play It Again Sports for sponsoring our podcast, and we do legitimately go there and buy stuff from them. I buy my hockey gear from Play It Again Sports. Great place to get your gear. Check them out. If you're not already going there, I don't know why not, because really that's the best place to get your hockey gear around.
Well, I played as a kid. That's where I got my stuff.
Oh, for sure, man.
Now, where are you at, Franklin? What state are you in now?
I'm in Ohio now, Cincinnati. This is where I played when I played growing up. I played roller and ice here in Cincinnati, and there's a Play It Again Sports right up on Coleraine Avenue. Actually, I don't know if it's still there, but honest to God, that's where I used to get my skates and my sticks and my gloves, my Paul Coffey wooden blades and all that good stuff. Yeah, I love Play It Again. I can smell it now.
Oh man, you ruined my line. You were supposed to say you didn't have one in Cincinnati, Ohio, or wherever, and call your congressman.
Call your congressman.
You got one.
Well, you still got it in. You still got it in, and I totally would call my congressman because Play It Again Sports is awesome.
Right. Well, call him and tell him you need two of them there.
He's on my speed dial right next to Shatty.
This is my testimonial. Okay, I am standing up right now. My testimonial in the car, and I want to say that over the years. I
can't advise that.
I've walked in the Sports Authority. I've walked in the Dick's Sporting Goods, right? And I before I would go though, I would go by the ATM, and I would go by the ATM and I'd get out 40, and then I'd go back and get another 40 because I didn't think I had enough, and then I'd come back one more time to the ATM and I had like $100 in my pocket, and then I would go by the bank and get a loan, and then I would go by the major box sporting goods stores to get my equipment because that's how much money you need to get your equipment at those stores because it costs so much. It's an arm and a leg, right, Nicky? Am I lying or not?
You're not lying.
I'm not lying.
I mean, if we didn't have equity on the home, I don't know how we would have afforded that last set of pads we got from Sports Authority.
It was a third loan. It wasn't even a second mortgage, a third mortgage. But when you go to Play It Against Sports, I mean, I just break open little Ben's. I got a younger son. I just break open his little piggy bank. I grab some pennies and I score a pair of like Elliott pads or something when I go out there.
Your kid's a goalie?
So if you like spending a lot of money, and you got a ton of money, and you're independently wealthy, just head on by Dick's Sporting Goods store, and they'll take care of you. Real good.
I got to say real quick, you're doing a great job pumping up Play It Again Sports, but you just shot down like every other sporting goods place in the St. Louis area to sponsor our podcast.
Well, you can't have conflicting interests like that. You gotta. Anyway, that was just part of the. I mean, I'm not making any of that up, and obviously
you can bleep it out in post. That wouldn't be nobody would know what you were talking about.
Back to the show. Let's see now. An update on the Blues game, actually, because as we know, the people that are going to be listening to this tomorrow after it's posted will want to know how the game is going right now. That they've already found out how the final score ends. But since you don't know the final score yet, and you're not in the future yet. It is 2-0 Capitals with 3 minutes left in the first period, and Jake Allen's in net, but he might as well not be.
Oh man, that hook is
it's
man,
2 goals
dangling from the rafters right now.
2 goals on 4 shots. 2 goals on 4 shots.
I'm not great at stats, but that's bad.
Tell me
that's got to be somewhere in the 500 range.
Put both of them in the basket.
I'm not great with math, but that's somewhere close to a 500 save percentage.
Ish. It's in the neighborhood, and that's not good. You don't want a whole lot of games with a 500 save percentage. I think they call that a very bad start.
Very bad.
But maybe he'll stand on his head the rest of the way, though. Hockey's weird. Maybe Tarasenko will score 2, tied up.
I'll have a hat trick. Yeah,
Yeah, Hattie. Get a Hattie. That'll get them going. And they win 3-2. Jake Allen gets the win, and all of our complaints are suddenly invalid, right?
Awesome. Yeah, right. I love the people too that say that you're not a real fan if you complain about your team. It's like, no,
What?
there's faults with the team. I can admit that. It doesn't make me less of a fan because I realize there's faults.
Well, what team's perfect? I mean, like there's no team that doesn't need something.
Blackhawks.
And that's why it's fun to talk about.
Blackhawks, if you ask them, their team's perfect, minus the salary cap issues. But besides them, there's no perfect teams.
Don't get me started on Chicago and how nobody were going to those games back in the 90s, how they were voted the worst franchise in North American sports by ESPN before they got rid of Rocky. They got short memories in Chicago. They do. I love the Blackhawks. They're fun to watch, but let's not act like this team has been, very well supported for the last half decade. Or the last 50 years. They haven't been.
Hey, Franklin, I missed the beginning again. I keep repeating myself here, but I was just curious. So you write, and do you write about? Are you writing for one team, or are you writing about NHL play in general, all teams?
I write about most of them. I try to kind of keep it somewhat compartmentalized, so I can go back and make sure I'm actually watching the stuff. If I'm like, the next couple weeks I might write about these 5, 6, 7 teams, so I'll try to keep up with all their stuff and see what's going on and keep up with their beat guys and keep up with their games and what's going on and then really just kind of depends on what's needed from me. I try to clean up whatever I can. So I always say I'm a janitor. You need somebody to write about the Red Wings and only the Red Wings, or only the Blackhawks and only the Blackhawks. That's fine. I'll write about the other 29 teams. It's fine. I got it.
And so you grew up watching minor league hockey, ECHL or something along those lines. And what team do you claim a team as your number one team then to watch?
I really, at this point, I don't have a favorite team. That's just gone. I've been doing this for honestly for a living for the last 4 or 5 years. So I really can't, you just can't really, actively pull for a team. There are players that I like to watch though, and I don't have an issue saying, I'll turn on the TV to watch Tyler Seguin or turn on the TV to watch Evgeny Malkin or, Tarasenko. These are can't miss guys. Right. So I just think that, just the player aspect of it and the systems aspect of it and on the cap side of things, how different teams value players and that kind of thing. I think it's all just as interesting to me. I'll watch the Senators the same way I'd watch the Blackhawks or whatever team you want to pick. So
now, was that a Golden Knights hat sitting there on you?
Oh, you saw that, did you? Yeah, I bought a Golden Knights hat. I support hockey in weird places.
Okay.
I know that's probably kind of weird, but I do hope that teams like Las Vegas and Arizona, Phoenix, and the California teams and Dallas, I like the idea of teams growing and growing the sport and growing the game. And I know we don't like Gary Bettman. I know we don't like him. If we had to power rank all the commissioners, I think we have arguably probably the second best one. But just that I'm a big fan of that. I think that it's cool that they're going to give it a shot. I don't know that it'll work, but I hope it does, because more people liking hockey is better for everybody, right?
Exactly. It can only do good. Now, did you get a chance to watch the unveiling ceremony for their new logo?
Oh, that was bad.
I didn't see the unveiling ceremony itself. No, I don't have cable in my room, so.
It might have been on the website too. I forget, but so it was probably.
Was it brutal?
It was brutal. It was probably the worst unveiling ceremony I'd ever seen, because they brought this guy up. It was like the local news guy, and so he wanted to talk about clips and news clips, sound bites he had from the owner. Now, he didn't play them back through a sound system per se. What he did, he took them on his iPhone and held his iPhone up to the microphone and tapped the sound bites he wanted to play. So this is in Vegas, the home of the of entertainment.
Killing it.
Started it. So the start of it was that's a little bit weird, but I can get beyond that. There's better. They made a big unveiling video. It didn't play. It went blank. They tried it again. It didn't play again. The screen went blank a second time. They tried it the third time, and it still didn't play. It got like 2 seconds and then stopped dead again.
And people started chanting, we want to see the logo.
Yeah,
we want to see the logo.
Those poor people. They carved out nights of their lives, and they're just trying to see this thing, and they can't even get the video. What is this like? It sounds like something that would happen in a college class, like at a community college. Like, yeah, my first day of school, I went to English class, and the teacher couldn't get his thing to work. Like that. That's pretty ridiculous. You don't test that?
What?
Cue the drop. Got to have something to cover that. That would, that fits what we're saying right now.
I don't know. I'll have to dig through the sound effect files. What we got for that? 1 second.
They should have played this. Everybody would have laughed if the one you're about to play.
Me fail English? That's impossible.
That's the first one I had that came up. Anyway, so.
Well, I was thinking of oh crud! I can't Patrick Starr. I was thinking of Patrick Starr in that line, the one you got with Patrick Starr.
Okay.
Well, maybe it is stupid, but it's also dumb.
I like the one where you asked that you have somewhere else to be stupid, and he said not till 4. I thought you were gonna play that one.
It's funny too. I'm gonna have to go back and watch that video now. I'm gonna try and find a fan video of it on YouTube. I like to try and see what because I know how they're gonna present it. I know they're gonna edit stuff and cut stuff and boost crowd noise and all that stuff. So I like to find the real action, down in the crowd. Let's see what it was really like. And that I'm probably gonna fall down that rabbit hole for 20 minutes later. I'll thank you in advance.
Now, the last thing that took the cake on that thing was when they finally did just put up a photo of the logo to show everybody. They launched a ton of confetti, and it obscured the logo, and you couldn't see it until all the.
So very poorly planned.
Oh, okay, and then the last thing they did, there was the final killer. Instead of just sussing up and saying, sorry, we screwed this all up, but I promise you our first game will be better, or some good line, there was nothing. The guy that was running the whole thing, that was kind of the hype man, at the very end, he's like, okay, everybody, we got hats and jerseys to your right at the store over here, and over to your left, we've got, and he started hawking merchandise, for the fans.
Oh, yeah, he would repeat it 3 times. Don't forget to buy a hat, and don't forget to buy a T-shirt on your way out.
Yeah, and it was just so that last part was really bad. Oh boy.
I wonder if, and this is total speculation, I wonder if the NFL would be seriously considering moving there if things hadn't gone so, relatively smoothly with the NHL going there. I wonder if they're like, oh, that ground's fertile enough, like somebody else is putting down some plants. Maybe we should put down a plant too.
If someone else wants to risk it first, and then they say, okay, now that you've tested it, we'll swoop in and take all your market share.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see. I might write about this here the next week or two about on average, how many home games NHL teams play on Sundays. Just to see, because the NHL does a pretty good job, I feel, of staying away from stuff that would just kill them in the rating. If they're not going to put on 14 games in the Super Bowl and try and run up against it, or I don't even know if whatever. And we'll pick your event. But yeah, how many games are we talking about? How many times are the Golden Knights going to be running up against the the Raiders or whatever? 4, 3, because that's not that bad. If it's 14, that's a problem, but I don't think that's the case. But I'm going to look into it. It's going to be awesome.
Right, because you got home games in a year, and there's not that many home games for football. There's not 40. There's not 41 of them.
So they're going to cross over what, twice? I think Bill Daly said something. They're like, are you guys worried about it? He's like, oh, we worried about it. We're competing for eyeballs, but how often are we going to be competing with eyeballs? Let's be honest. There's a lot of stuff to look at in Las Vegas. I don't think that the NFL is going to come in and kill it. Hopefully, I hope that's not the case. But anyway, we'll look into it, see how it looks. Could be fun.
Well, I think that about wraps it up for our show tonight. Did anyone else have anything else you wanted to talk about?
Before you wrap it up, I want to go off topic for a second.
I knew it. Yeah, let's hear it.
I've had this phone to my head. Normally I use a headset, right? But it turns out the headset wasn't working too well. So I stuck the phone in my head for the last 40 minutes. And somebody needs to Google this because, I won't put a phone near my head because I think I'm going to get,
He's
brain
paranoid,
cancer. So I want to know, I'm trying to think positively here, though. I can feel
Happy
the heat in
thoughts,
my
happy
brain.
thoughts.
Do you think there's an outside chance that I'm radiating an existing tumor and maybe shrinking it through the cell phone? Or do you think maybe I'm just causing, a tumor to grow? Could you Google that real quick for me?
I Googled it, and it says you're worried about nothing.
There's nothing to worry about?
That's the top result. It says nothing's going to happen.
Is WebMD your homepage? You just get on and you're like, oh man, what's wrong with me?
Hey,
twice.
Hey, it wasn't, but it will be. That's a great idea.
Like, why didn't I think of that? I'm just Googling it and then going to WebMD. Why don't I just go directly to WebMD?
Now I can be worried about everything without even having to go anywhere else.
Get all my medical information in one place.
I had this itch on my back. You have cancer. I stubbed my toe. You have cancer. Everything
Again?
WebMD. Dang it, man! I just got better from that last one.
Yeah, it's like the third time this week. Oh boy, I'm staying off of WebMD.
We'll go ahead and call it a show. We'd like to thank Franklin for coming on. Give him a follow on Twitter. You can follow him at Franklin Steele. That's Steele with an extra E on the end. Give us a follow at Toast Dispatch. Subscribe to the podcast. You can listen to it on our website or subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or your favorite podcasting app. And, of course, check out the website for more articles, videos, and fun stuff. ToastDispatch.com.
Hey, Nikki, if they want to follow me, they're going to have to get on Highway 44.
If you want to follow me, Highway 44 is currently driving.
Right.
What are you heading? Eastbound on 44?
Yeah, I'm eastbound on 44.
Okay, so hop on 44 East and follow me.
Sullivan exit.
Sullivan
Link
exit.
their lives and they can follow me.
You got to do it in the next 5 minutes, though.
Get on it, guys.
For our technically challenged listeners, the ones who really can't get on Twitter and can't figure it out, they can still follow somebody.
Right.
That'd be nice.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Franklin. Sorry I couldn't be involved more. It was hard for me here.
We'll try it again sometime. It was good. It was good hanging out with you guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we'd love to have you on again sometime.
Cool. Just drop me a line.
Meet you, Franklin.
All right. We'll see you.
Bye.